What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with What If Deku story. What if Deku was broken and abandoned, until the Night Queen chose him as her mate? If you enjoyed then please like, share and do comments. Opening his eyes, Bakugo strangely finds himself before a white room. Looking around, he notices the rest class 1A beside him, along with a few teachers and All Might. There was also Mirio holding some red-eyed girl with white hair and a horn on her head. What is she, a unicorn or something? He wondered. What the hell? What is going on here? Bakugo said, voicing most of what the class was thinking. What was this? This wasn't right. Last they all checked, they were all fast asleep. Where were they? And why was everything white? Looking around however, they notice a door standing up by itself, seemingly leading to nowhere. Maybe we should check that door and see if it leads anywhere. Kaminari chimed. You dumbass. That door doesn't lead fucking anywhere. Language Bakugo. There is a child here. Iida said, motioning robotically towards Eri, whom had her ears covered by Mirio. Look, it may seem ridiculous, but we don't have many other options. Aizawa said, we're checking the door, but be on alert. We don't know what could be on the other side, if anything. Eri, All Might, stay behind us. Getting behind the group, or for Eri behind Mirio's leg, everyone stood still as Aizawa slowly approached the door. Everyone subtly activated their quirks, ready for anything to pop up at them. Getting close, Aizawa could hear what sounded like grunts, almost like someone was in the middle of a fight. They needed to be careful. Aizawa gently grasped the handle. Okay, on 3. Everyone else nodded. 1, 2, 3. He then immediately threw the door open and they rushed and prepared for whatever was on the other side. Not prepared enough however, as the sight before them left them standing there in shock. Right before them was what looked like some teenager roughly mashing buttons on a video game controller. He seemed to be sitting in a chair that was floating off of the ground. In front of him was a large TV screen, showing the game he was playing, which looked like some sort of fighting game. They didn't know what game involved what seemed to be a large, overweight, king crocodile man and a small child with tentacles for hair fighting one another, but it looked interesting nonetheless. Damn it, they heard the teen say. He always has to go inkling. Fighting her is always a bitch. Language. Iida shouted, more out of habit than anything. This distracted the teen boy for a second, causing the tentacle girl to knock the crocodile off the fighting stage. The boy sat there dumbfounded at what happened. He suddenly turned to Iida with a glare. Really Iida? Was that really necessary? Thanks to you I lost. He shouted in anger. Before Iida could say sorry, a thought popped up into his head. How do you know my name? I know all of your names. He groaned as he got up, dismissing them. Uraraka, Todoroki, Aizawa, Sparky Boom Man. He pointed out, landing on Bakugo. What the hell did you call me? Bakugo shouted, sparks shooting from his hands. Did I stutter or something? Pretty sure I didn't. The teen said nonchalantly, seemingly not threatened by Bakugo. Bakugo growled in anger before launching himself at the boy, ready to blow him to smithereens. That came out wrong. Right as Bakugo outstretched his arm to fire off an explosion in the teen's face, the teen suddenly snapped his fingers. Before he knew it, Bakugo was frozen in midair, unable to move. Geez, you really are about explosions first, ask questions later. And not to mention that smell. He said as he covered his nose. Must suck to smell like nitroglycerin all day every day. Let's fix that. In fact, the boy snapped his fingers again, a large flash encompassing the room. That ought to do it. Suddenly, Bakugo felt able to move once again, but due to stopping in midair, ended up face planting into the ground. Ouch, just ain't your day is it Bakugo? Enraged, Bakugo reached up to fire an explosion at the boy's smug face, only find that nothing came out. What happened to my quirk? Oh, that was me. The boy said. Can't have you going about destroying the place. Even if I constructed this place in a matter of seconds, I'd prefer you not mess it up. The same goes for the rest of you. One by one, everyone finds that their quirks won't activate. Excuse me, Uraraka said, mustering up the courage to speak to this strange boy. But who are you? And why are we here? Oh right. Sorry, kind of got distracted. My name is B**J. And everyone gave him a strange look as they had no idea what he just said. He sighed as he'll have to go with his nickname. One he wasn't too fond of. Or, since B and J are the only regular characters in my name, you can call me BJ. Half of the class cracked up at this, mainly Mineta, Kaminari, and Mina. Yeah, laugh it up. Can we just get this started? After having everyone quiet up, BJ smiled. Good, now. He cleared his throat. Welcome all of you. You all have been selected to view the vast different universes in the multiverse. But with a twist. He strangely sounded like some sort of TV host. Now, between you all, can any of you guess who is currently Mia? Looking around, Uraraka was the first to notice someone missing. A certain someone with green fluffy hair. That's right. Our very own Izuku Midoriya is currently missing. No need to worry though, as he is sleeping soundly in bed. BJ said, pulling up an image of Izuku sleeping in his dorm room. Now during your stay here, time is irrelevant. You can be here for years on end and only a second could have passed back there. Now for the twist, the universes you'll be viewing shall revolve around our resident Bone Breaker. Now this was a surprise. They were all just going watch Izuku in different universes. But there was one question on their minds. And why only shitty Deku's life huh? Because none of you are as interesting. BJ replied. Well, at least he was honest. Kirishima decided it would be manly to raise his hand for a question rather than interrupt. Yes Kirishima. While watching different universes sound cool and all, why are you doing this? Why show us this in the first place? Excellent question Kirishima. You see, as hard as it is to believe, I'm probably the closest thing to a god you all will ever see. No, this isn't me being narcissistic. I just know things that would melt your mind. How so? Mineta asked. Well, has anyone here know Deadpool? A few heads nodded. Alright, well, as you know, he was a comic book character who was completely aware he was a comic book character. In one issue, he had enough of it and decided to slaughter all the other characters so that they wouldn't have to suffer anymore. In a fight with one of them who was a telepath, he tried to read Deadpool's mind, before dying once he found out that he and everything he knew was fake. That all he was just character in a comic book. So yeah, basically I know things that would do that to you guys. Kaminari's eyes widened in shock. Wait. Are you saying we're not real? What? Of course not, it was just an example idiot. BJ said, gaining a sigh of relief from everyone there. What they don't know won't hurt them. Now, for an example of my powers. Watch. With just a flick of his wrist, he gave everyone comfortable seats to sit in as well as each and everyone's favorite snack. And while I am capable of entertaining myself through playing video games with my brother, I sought for more. And then, I came across this idea. See, we are not the first to try this. You are a few of multiple versions of yourselves who have gotten to experience this. So I thought, hey, this looks fun. Let's give it a try. And here we are. He finished. This was a lot to take in at once. First they find a being who claims to be some sort of god. Then they find he has abilities that make it hard to disprove him, and now he was going to show them viewings of different universes. But hey, at this point, the most they could do was just watch, and try to enjoy it. Now then, let's get in the movie watching mood. BJ then maneuvered his hands strangely as he dims the lights and moves the seats closer to one another, making it look like a small movie theater. Nice, now for the first one. He pulled out a box that said, Infinite Universe Pile, holding different VHS-looking tapes before sorting through it, trying to find a good one to start with. Oh yeah, before I forget, depending on what universes we get, I may need to remove some of you, in a manner of speaking. But why though? Asked All Might. Oh you know, the usual stuff. Excessive blood, gore, Izuku banging Bakugo's mom. What? Hey, I'm just saying it could happen. Seen it happen before when someone had tried this. Besides, not like we can blame Izuku if it happens. Your mom is a fox. Bakugo really wanted to pounce BJ, even if he knew his quirk wouldn't work. But he found himself unable to move once again. Damn it. Also, I'm giving viewing rights to quite a number of different beings much like myself. Who knows, maybe they'll request a universe to show. BJ turned to look at the audience and gave a wink. What is he winking at? Everyone wondered. Anyways, I think I found us a good one. I'm a big fan of this one. Though you might have to cover Aries' eyes on certain parts Mirio. Just warning ya, he said, pulling one out and walking over to the TV. Now, I'm gonna be viewing this from a separate room so you all can give your opinions. Have fun, he said before sliding the tape in and vanishing. And thus, the multiverse viewing began. We see Izuku standing beside a locked steel door as he fiddles with a piece of paper in his hands. He's wearing what looks to be similar to an orange prison jumpsuit, with a strange symbol of a circle with 3 lines in it. What's with that outfit? He looks like a convict in those. Kirishima said. Yeah, you think he's done something and got arrested? Tsuyu asked. Please. Deku would never do anything that would warrant an arrest. Bakugo scoffed. Walk in, ask questions, get out. Walk in, ask questions, get out. Walk in, ask questions, get out. He repeated to himself. He opened his eyes with a look of determination. Get OU. Mr. Midoriya. The intercom behind him said, startling him. Jesus. Remember to speak clearly and precisely to the subject. This one is very difficult to talk to. I wonder who he has to talk to. Uraraka said. They referred to them as a subject, so maybe some kind of test subject. Yaoyorozu guessed. Wait, are you saying that this is some kind of testing facility? Well, maybe. But that does leave questions as to why Midoriya is there and helping them. Yaoyorozu added. With a loud buzz, the door opens. Walking in, Izuku stands behind a hulking green figure with a few arrows lounged into his back. His hands looked like they belonged to an elephant. This figure was humming to himself, listening to some orchestra music as he sits beside a rather nice-looking table with teacups and a record player. Excuse me, Izuku started with a crack in his voice before clearing his throat. Excuse me, Mr. Ferdinand. Well, I beg your pardon. I didn't smell you in here, he said, turning to meet Izuku with sagging cheeks and completely white eyes. What the heck is that thing? A Nomu or something? Shiro shouted. Quite unusual of me, I have to say, I must be coming down with the flu. Ferdinand nudged Izuku with his hand before getting up and walking to the side. Well, do take a seat, I'll fetch us some tea. Aight, cool. He's treating this like it's a normal thing. Aizawa said nonchalantly. Well, maybe he's used to dealing with beings like this. All Might added. I was just speaking to the Duke of the Highlands about a wonderful new, or was it the Duchess? Their resemblance is uncanny. I trust you to not speak a word of this to either of them on your way out. Her demeanor is as hairy as her upper lip, he said as he sorted through a large cabinet. What on earth is he talking about? Midnight wondered. And why is he speaking like some sort of Shakespearean character? Aizawa asked. Apparently the Duke's uncle passed away in a terrible swan attack. Tragic, really, he was relentless at badminton. I say, do you partake in the thwacking of the shuttlecock yourself? Actually, I'm just here to ask you some questions. He sounded disappointed. Toru said. Well, of course you are, why else would you be here? Exactly, sir. Question 1. It's all any of you fleshy homunculi do these days, EY. Ferdinand said, looming over Izuku. I don't like the look in his eye. Juro said. What look? He doesn't have any pupils. Kaminari joked. Quiet. Popping into my bloody room and asking me bloody questions, not to have tea or play an honest game of badminton. No, we're all above that. We're all too busy for badminton. What the fuck is badminton? Hearing this, Ferdinand flopped over onto his table and began to sob, despite no visible tears coming out. Everyone was at a loss at Ferdinand's personality. He flipped back and forth so quickly, you'd be inclined to think he was bipolar. Missed, Izuku said, hoping to console the large man. Although, I cannot blame you for wanting to avoid this room. He interrupted, turning to Izuku. Not a single man has walked into my cell without losing his head, did you know that? Everyone's faces paled at what he implied with that. Mirio found himself slowly covering Eri's eyes, remembering BJ's words. He wouldn't. Uraraka hoped. Izuku noticeably got more nervous. What do ya mean by? Suddenly, Ferdinand lunged right at Izuku, clearly aiming to bite off his head. It cuts to a group of people watching this happen, as disturbing crunching sounds filled the room. Midori at Deku. Everyone in the room shouted in horror at the sight. Uraraka had tears coming out of her eyes at seeing him lose his head. What was this? Why were they being made to watch this? Why did BJ say this was going to be good? We then see Ferdinand toss Izuku's body to the wall, his head noticeably missing. After 5 terribly long seconds of waiting, something unexpected happened. Suddenly, a second Izuku popped out of thin air, holding his head as if he has a headache before looking down to his dead body on the ground. Everyone was frozen with shock at seeing Izuku not only fine and dandy, but standing right next to his dead body. Wah! But how? Uraraka said in disbelief at seeing her friend be resurrected all of a sudden. Maybe it's his quirk or something. Toru questioned. But that is nothing like what he has back home. Iida stated. Well, this is a different universe. Maybe in this universe, he's immortal. Todoroki said. Asshole. Izuku shouted, gaining Ferdinand's attention. Izuku reaches beside his previous body and pulls out the paper he had before, it now having his blood on it. Ew. Just by his reaction alone, you can tell he's used to this. Kaminari pointed out, everyone else nodding in agreement. I say, you're not an average chap like the rest of them, are you? Not technically, no. You're an abnormality. An SCP, like us. You belong here with us. Wait a sec. SCP. The SCP Foundation is real in this universe. Mina exclaimed. What are you on about? The SCP Foundation. Aizawa questioned. The SCP is a fictional organization that stands for Secure, Contain, and Protect. Their job is to find different anomalies in the world, ranging from extraterrestrial and even extra-dimensional, and studies them to learn about them and prevent the possible extinction of all human life. Kirishima looked at Mina surprised. Mina, where did you learn this? Oh, I read about it online sometimes. The SCP's people make up are just so cool to look up. Mina exclaimed. After explaining it, everyone just looked at Mina with a look shock. What? Nothing. It's just surprising to hear you. Uraraka started. Actually reading something extensively. Suyu asked. Hey, to be fair, you seem to know more about this made-up organization than you do about many of the subjects we learn in class. Juro said. Mina merely pouted and crossed her arms. She was smart and attentive when she really put her mind to it. Midori told her that, and she knows he's right. He always was. No. I do not belong here with you. I am not a human atom bomb, I'm not a rapidly evolving virus, and I'm not a Shakespearean cannibal. I work for them. Those were incredibly specific. Don't tell me that facility keeps every single one of those. Toru said, scared at the thought of any of those existing in their world. You bet they do. And those were only the tip of the iceberg compared to what else this facility has. Mina laughed, causing the others to pale a bit at what else there could be. I've no doubt in my mind about your pathetically feeble and fragile nature, but are you allowed to leave anytime you wish, Dude, you've asked like 5 questions and I haven't even asked one, can I just, Izuku started before once again getting interrupted. Bubuj, just one more. Just one more. He said before punching Izuku into the wall, smashing his head open and breaking his arm, some of the bone showing. In just a second, he pops back again with a new body. I don't think I can get used to that. Uraraka said, averting her eyes. Me either. Everyone else thought. Does that hurt? Ferdinand asked bemusedly. Yes, that hurts. Stop it. Suddenly, Ferdinand leapt into the air and smashed Izuku right into the ground. As soon as he popped back, Ferdinand punched his head open. He started laughing as he killed Izuku over and over, clearly having a joyous time doing so. Despite how messed up it sounds, Bakugo had to hold back a small chuckle at this. Not because seeing Deku dying was funny to him, not even he was that cruel. No, it was more how to Deku, it was merely an irritation, and that Ferdinand kept doing it when it clearly annoyed Deku. We're going nowhere, stop the test, said someone from the group watching them, before sending some kind of tranquilizer dart into Ferdinand's arm, knocking him out. Izuku clawed his way out from under Ferdinand, looked around the room. Wow, I even got on the lamp. Mr. Midoriya, please exit the containment cell. I'm out. I don't wanna be here when these bodies start voiding their bowels. Fuck you, Mr. Ferdinand, Izuku said nonchalantly before leaving the room. He is awfully casual after being murdered so many times. Yaoyorozu said. He must go through it a lot. That must be why they had specifically him go in. With someone who cannot die, they're free to do whatever test they need. Said Mina. That was honestly a sad thought. Being killed so many times that you just get used to it. Izuku enters a room where we see three figures. The first is Shiro messing with what looks to be a cactus. The second is Tokiyami seemingly stuck to the ceiling with his arms crossed. The third and final one seems to be the top half of a dog stuck into the wall. All except for the dog were wearing the same orange SCP suit. Check it out, Tokiyami and Shiro are there too. Sato said. Wait, were SCPs in this too? Shiro questioned. Looks like it. Why am I stuck to the ceiling? Tokiyami wondered. Hey, Izuku said as he walked in. Hey, said Tokiyami. How'd the test go? Shiro asked. Not great, but not as bad as the black hole demon. Wait, demons exist in this too? Kaminari exclaimed. He's still better than that guy that eats memories. Tokiyami groaned. Mind freaks are the worst. Wait, there's a guy that eats memories. Shiro asked with a raised eyebrow. Tokiyami looked confused. There is. This actually caused everyone laugh a bit for the first time during this entire viewing. If only it was like this from the start. Izuku hopped into bed. I'm gonna hit the hay a little early tonight, guys. Cool. Alright man, no prob. As he lays in bed, a thought from his previous conversation with Ferdinand popped up in his head. Hey, we're not freaks, are we? Tokiyami looked at Izuku with confusion before asking. What? We pan up and see multiple cells, holding a multitude of different creatures and people before cutting to black. Everyone was speechless after what they just witnessed. Seeing as no one was saying anything, Kaminari decided to chime in with something that was on his mind. Was there a guy with corn for a head? We just literally saw a world where Midoriya is a test subject in some facility and is used due to some ability he has to not be able to die, and that's your first question afterwards. Jiro asked him as disbelief. Well, yeah. Kaminari ended up with a smack against his head, courtesy of the punk rock hero herself. As this happens, everyone sees the tape from before being mystically removed and replaced with a new one. After what they just watched as their first one, they weren't sure what expect next. As the screen was loading the next universe, everyone was a little anxious about what they'll see next. If that last one was considered good, who knows what they'll get next. And then they heard it. The intro to Morio Cho radio plays as we hover over a small town by the name Morio. This certainly caught them off guard. Maybe this universe won't be that bad. Perhaps it'll even be more peaceful than what they saw last. That was definitely welcome. Casually walking down the street, backpack in hand, was a short and feisty boy known for his love of spiky hats and ball busting, Kota Izumi. Although this one was a little older than the one they knew. It all happened in April 1989. It was my first day in high school and I was about to make two very bizarre friends. I was about to become a high schooler and wondered what my classmates would be like. Jiro raised an eyebrow at the notion of Kota being a high schooler. High school. He may seem a little older than before, but he definitely doesn't seem our age. Well, he still looks older than Mineta. Suyu quipped. Good point. Hey, Mineta shouted, but was ignored by the others. In case you were wondering, my name is Kota Izumi. Though I guess it's not really that important. Anyway, I was on my way to class when suddenly, not paying attention to where he's going, Kota accidentally collides with a tall man, resulting in him dropping his things. Before they fell to the ground, however, a pair of arms appear around the man, catching all of Kota's things before they even hit the ground and placing them back into Kota's bag. Looking at his hand, Kota sees his bag perfectly fine, confused as to how it happened. What the? But we just ran into each other. Everyone was stunned at the sight. They have never seen any quirk that was like this. The closest they have seen would be Tokiyami's Dark Shadow, but this was somewhat better, considering the speed and precision it just showed. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. Looking up, Kota gets a better look at the man. He was tall with dark and unruly long hair, almost as if he never bothered to brush it. The man also had bloodshot eyes with extreme bags under his eyes. Geez, this guy looks exhausted. The class couldn't help but chuckle at the boy's reaction to their teacher. Check it out, Aizawa, it's you. All Might pointed out, causing the teacher to let out a groan. But he was a little curious about his role in this, as well as the new abilities he showed off. Though that was everyone at this point. All of them knew what Aizawa's quirk is, but they have never seen it do that. Before they even thought to ask him about it, they remembered how in the last universe they saw, Izuku had completely different abilities than their version. So they came to the conclusion that the same would apply to this Aizawa. Though this did not quell their curiosity about the arms they saw. Perhaps it will be explained at a later point. Hey, think you can help me out? I'm looking for the Midoriya family. Kota raised an eyebrow in confusion, as the name wasn't ringing any bells. Midoriya, maybe an address will help. The man pulled out a small notebook from his pocket, his name being written on the front to show it belonged to him. Shota Aizawa. Aizawa-sensei's looking for Midoriya. I wonder why. Toru chimed. Mina gasped as she made up a theory in her mind. Maybe he needs to tell him something important. Oh, what if they're long-lost relatives? Hearing this, Toru couldn't help but try and add to it. Yeah, maybe Aizawa-sensei's grandfather had an affair with Midoriya's mom, resulting in Midoriya being his illegitimate son. Wouldn't that make Izuku Aizawa-sensei's uncle? Wouldn't that just be bizarre? Both girls giggled to themselves at the idea. Aizawa however was not amused by the idea. Having what he refers to as the problem child, as his uncle would just spell numerous headaches for him. Looking the address over, Kota points over to a nearby bus stop. If you need to get there, the number 3 bus should take you there, no sweat. Thanks kid. Aizawa nodded and started walking away, leaving the boy to ponder the man over, having not recognized him from the town. Hey! A loud voice shouted, snapping Kota out of his thoughts. Turning around, Kota finds himself confronted by a group of delinquents. You a freshman? Aren't you gonna introduce yourself to your upperclassmen? Alright. My name is Kota Izumi sir, a freshman. It's nice to meet you senpai. He said before bowing before them, hoping to avoid any and all trouble with them. That's more like it runt. Fortunately, they proceeded to leave, causing Kota to let out a sigh of relief. I don't like the look of these guys, Kirishima growled, remembering the people who once bullied him as a child. Bakugo couldn't help but scoff at them, only seeing them as losers who no doubt were just some immature dirtbags who don't have anything better to do than to mess with anyone unfortunate enough to run into them. Wait, thank God they're gone. I wouldn't worry about those guys if I were you. I'm sure they'll be on a different bus sir. He told Aizawa, hoping that the gang won't deter him from doing what he was before. However, the delinquents weren't completely done, as Kota hears them once more, this time harassing someone else. What do you think you're doing, asshole? Who do you think you are? Surrounded by the delinquents was Izuku Midoriya, who was currently squatted down beside a fountain. On the ledge sat a small green frog currently minding its own business. Great, those guys just have to start messing with more people, Midoriya no less. Don't they have anything better to do? Kaminari complained, not liking the delinquents at all. Well, at least we get to see Deku finally. I wonder what he's like in this world. Uraraka said. Well, you see, this little froggy here appears to have just woken from hibernation. Izuku said as he nervously hovers his hands over it, attempting to touch it but constantly hesitated. Normally, I'm terrified of frogs, even just lightly touching their backs is enough to make me piss myself. So I thought that maybe it's time to conquer my fears and... Do I look I give a shit? Why is he so scared of frogs? I'm not that bad. Suyu couldn't help but think. Get up you weirdo. Following their orders, Izuku stood up, giving them full view of his outfit. It looked similar to a standard male uniform, but the jacket and pants were a dark navy blue with a yellow t-shirt underneath. The jacket was opened in a way where it almost shaped a heart. On the jacket were multiple accessories, including a yellow peace sign pin and several heart pins. Ooh, looks like this Midoriya's got some style. Toru cooed at Izuku's outfit. While it was different from what she was used to, Momo could concur with Toru that was definitely fashionable. It's certainly unique, and unlike any school uniform I've seen. Yeah, but what's with the heart motif? Joryu wondered. Now here's the deal, you can dress like some pompous prick if you want to. The leader says as he grabs the frog, it struggles in his hand while he holds it in the Izuku's face. But first you got to pay respects to us, got it? This clearly made Izuku uncomfortable as he tried backing away from the frog. See, can you please not do that? Amphibians tend to freak me out. They're all just so slimy and creep. He is suddenly interrupted with a backhand across his face, causing Izuku to spit out some blood. Just who do you think you're striking at? The leader shouted. While Suyu was a little offended by Izuku's reaction to the frog, her and the others were more shocked by the delinquent's leader's actions. Never before had she wanted to attack someone despite the law saying not to. Forgive me, sir. I swear I didn't know what I needed to do. Izuku bowed. The leader scoffed at him. You need to learn some respect, dumbass. He suddenly tosses the frog into the side of a pillar, resulting in the frog getting a large gash on its side and bleeding on the ground. Unless you want to end up like that dumb frog. Suyu couldn't help but cringe a bit at the sight of the dying frog. To see someone be so awful as to harm an innocent creature, one that she happened to share similar traits with no less, just makes her want to bend that guy backwards. Eri covered her eyes, not wanting to see such a horrible act be committed. Though, she slowly uncovers them, only because she knows that Deku will help that poor creature. Not only that, but he will take out those bullies, just like he did Overhaul. These guys are bad news. Kota mumbled as he took a step back. You know what, I'm feeling merciful today. The delinquent leader snickered. Leave your jacket and pants with us and you get to walk away. Cash too. One his cronies shouted. Alright. I apologize for the trouble, senpai. Come on, Midoriya. Knock those guys down a peg. Kirishima said, hoping for his message to reach the boy. Bakugo scoffed. Oh please, we all know there's no way Deku of all people has the guts to fight back against these guys. He's way too meek and anxious to even consider it. But still, he shouldn't just stand there and let them walk all over him. Only cowards would go so far to hurt and humiliate others just to make themselves feel better. Bakugo couldn't help but look off to the side in annoyance. No one else really knew about him and Midoriya's past together, and it was best that things stayed that way. Aizawa groaned in annoyance. A shame it had to go done like this. But what did he expect in that getup? Though it pisses me off that he just stood there while they pulverized that harmless frog. He then began to leave, finding no reason to stay. The leader smirked as he thought of something. I got an idea. What's your name, wuss? Class 1A, Izuku Midoriya. Aizawa froze mid-step at the name of the boy, turning back to get a good look at him. What did he say? Izuku Midoriya. Check this out. His name actually says Deku. Said of the delinquents as they looked at Izuku's ID. This made the leader erupt in laughter at the name. Deku, huh? Well, if you ask me, that name fits you better. Thanks. Shut your trap and take the damn jacket off. The bus is already here. Nodding, Izuku began unbuttoning his jacket, not wishing to cause conflict with the delinquent. See, I told ya Deku would cower away like a little bleep. Surprised, everyone looks towards Bakugo. Quote. What the bleep? Who the bleep is bleeping me out? The answer came in the form of subtle chuckling coming from somewhere in the room, none knew where though. Tisk. Whatever. My point still stands, nothing could make that nerd grow a spine. Eri couldn't help but lightly glare at Bakugo. She may not know him that well, but anyone who would talk down her hero certainly aren't good people. She knew Deku was gonna make a comeback. He has too. Geez, if you're this pathetic, I can only imagine how much of a useless bitch your mother is. Hearing this, Izuku suddenly freezes. Did you not hear me? Hurry it up. A strange aura begins to surround Izuku as glares up at the delinquent's leader, surprising him. Senpai. What did you just say, about my mom? He fist clenches as he stares down the delinquent leader. This honestly took the class back. While they have gotten small glimpses of Izuku being upset or maybe a little angry, none of them have ever seen him like this. There was nothing but pure unbridled fury behind his eyes, the kind that when you see it, you know you're screwed. Guess we found out what really makes Midoriya tick. Juro chimed. Unbeknownst to the delinquents, a large muscular arm suddenly manifests from Izuku's aura, clenching its fist tightly as it reels itself back. A stand, Aizawa thought. The arm that clocks the delinquent leader right in the face, knocking out both his teeth and his nose ring. This causes him to be launched back right into his gang, knocking them all down. Seeing the stand, Toru let out a large gasp. Hey, wasn't that like what Aizawa-sensei did earlier? Yeah, maybe that's why he was looking for him. Momo concluded. Makes sense. You see how fast that thing was. It knocked that guy out before he could even react. Siro said. My nose. He clutches his nose tightly to try and prevent too much blood from leaking. Izuku slowly makes way over to the gang, his glare still affixed to the leader. No one talks about my mom like that and gets away with it. No one. Now what was that about my mom being a useless bitch? What the hell? Izuku suddenly stomps his foot on the leader's head, slamming his face into the ground. Answer me. So, what were you saying about him not having a spine? Kirishima asked with a smirk on his at Bakugo. Despite being shocked by the sudden mood shift of Midoriya, he was more glad to see the boy giving it to those delinquents. Yeah, beat him up. Everyone turned to see it was Eri who shouted that, thrusting her fists through the air in a punching motion. Mirio was dumbfounded, as he expected her to not want to see any violence. Kota had no idea what just happened. What the heck? That guy just suddenly shot through the air. I wasn't seeing things just now. That was a stand I saw, thought Aizawa as he looked to Izuku. This caused confusion between the class. Wait, Kota didn't see that arm thing just now, Kaminari said, voicing the thoughts of everyone in the room. Shiro attempted to put some logic behind it. Maybe it went so fast he didn't get a good look. Momo shook her head, knowing that it wasn't the case. But Aizawa-sensei saw it just fine. He also called it something. A stand. Izuku then gently lifts the frog off of the ground, it looking perfectly fine. To show that it was okay, it hopped up onto Izuku's shoulder. How is that frog okay? I know I saw that large cut in it earlier, Kaminari said in confusion. And why is Midoriya not surprised too? Todoroki groaned as he came to the obvious conclusion. Maybe he himself healed it. Huh, the frog. Its wounds, Kota says in shock before looking towards the delinquents. Wait, look. Your nose is going back to normal. One of them pointed out as they see their leader's nose strangely start to fix itself. However, instead of going exactly back to normal, his nose inverts upwards, resulting in his face looking strange. Doesn't it look misshapen? His face is all weird looking now. Huh. What happened to nose? Tell me. The hell happened to his face? Sato said, disturbed by the now misshapen nose. Putting a hand to his chin, Bakugo thinks the situation over. By the look of it, it healed on its own. Almost like the frog. So perhaps Deku does have healing capabilities here. Though with how that guy's nose is different, there's definitely more to it. They all looked to Bakugo, shocked to hear something surprisingly analytical from him of all people. Tsuyu shrugged it off and smiled at Izuku, happy to see him still help out the small creature even when he earlier stated how scared he was of it. It really showed how big a heart he has. Which is probably a given, considering the heart theme he has with his outfit. Izuku creeps up behind the leader with a dark look in his eye. I had to touch that frog because of you. Even though I really didn't want to. How are you going to fix that? He raises his hand, as if preparing to hit him again. Scared, the group starts running away, not wanting to end up like their leader. Gee guys, wait up. What does my nose look like? He said as he chases after them. Yeah, you better run. Eri cheered, ecstatic to see her hero take care of those bullies. Everyone else could only lightly chuckle at her. Man, who'd think Midoriya could be intimidating? Said Kirishima, gaining a nod from most of them. Bakugo wouldn't admit that seeing Izuku actually pissed at someone was a little unsettling. It was probably for the best he never thought to insult Auntie Inko in front of him. Not that he would, even if that wasn't the case, he'd never even think to. She was far too nice. Good grief. So he's him then, Aizawa thought as he glanced over at Izuku standing proudly at driving away the delinquents. Before he can walk over and talk to him, however, Kiro, the frog on his shoulder, croaked, startling Izuku and causing him to fall onto the ground shouting. Holy shit, we hear before the screen cuts to black, signifying the end of the story. The class couldn't help but laugh a bit at how, despite him chasing off a gang of delinquents, he was still the same old easily startled Midoriya that they knew. They still weren't sure what stands, or whatever the heck those arms are, were all about, but they looked interesting nonetheless. They should ask BJ the next time they see him. Mina turned to Tsuyu. You know, that frog kind of sounded a lot like you, Tsu. It even had your eyes. Maybe in this world you are actually a frog. Toru cooed. Probably. That could be possible, Tsuyu said absent-mindedly as she pondered being an actual frog. It doesn't seem that appealing, but hey, she still meets one of her friends in this case, so that's a plus. Oh, imagine if he decided to keep you as a pet. Hearing the idea, Suyu wouldn't be opposed to being Midoriya's pet if she was a frog. Knowing him, he'd take great care of her and make sure she lived a nice life. He probably wouldn't if he's still scared of frogs. Juro shrugged. That's too bad. I'd be more than happy to have him take me. Kiro. The class could only stare at Suyu in shock at her statement. She herself seems completely unaware of how it sounded. Or maybe she did and just wanted to mess with them. It was honestly hard to tell. Unbeknownst to them, however, BJ, who was watching the situation from outside, was laughing at the situation. Oh man, if only that ship would actually happen in the main universe. I'd be so happy, he said before wiping a tear from his eye. Everyone watched as a tape flew into the TV, the tapes now strangely being labeled. BJ told them it was to give the audience an idea of what they'll be seeing. Although some of them did not know what this audience was or where they were, a good few remembered how BJ supposedly gave viewing right to other gods to watch with them. It was odd to think that they were being watched, but shrugged it off when the screen came to life. They were a little excited for what this tape labeled, Days of Future Past, was all about. Walking down a pale white hallway with a tray of food in hand, a man wearing a security uniform makes his way to a heavily fortified door with a sign saying, "No metal beyond this point." After proving his ID, two people who were guarding the door nod before unlocking and opening the door, allowing the man inside. Everyone was confused to see this, not having any clue where this story could be going. Suddenly, they all hear a familiar voice in the room. Quite the security detail. Whoever they're keeping in there must be pretty dangerous to have this for seemingly one person if that one tray is anything to go by. They all turned to see the principal of UA, Nezu, sitting down with a cup of tea in hand. Sitting down next to him was, strangely enough, Mei Hatsume, who was currently tinkering with a small gizmo she had on hand. "Sir, what are you doing here?" All Might asked in confusion. "Same thing as you all. It would appear that the god of this realm meant to bring us in earlier but apparently forgot until now. Don't worry, he filled us in on what's going on, including giving us memories of the last two universes you all watched. I must say, this chance to watch a vast number of different universes involving young Midoriya is quite a privilege." "What do you mean?" Midnight asked confused. "Well, the Midoriya of our world does have possibly the highest hero potential out of everyone here." "What, how?" Bakugo asked annoyed. Suddenly, they all hear BJ's voice being projected throughout the room. "Well, not only does his quirk have impressive fire power, so much so he is no doubt the strongest here physically, but he also has an intellect that is currently only rivaled by two others in his class, a strong sense of justice and will to protect the weak, and is quick to adapt in order to constantly improve. If I were to say anyone were to possibly top your earlier position as symbol of peace all might, I'd say it'd be him. It honestly makes me wish you wouldn't be so hard on him, Aizawa." Aizawa rolled his eyes as he believed BJ may be over-exaggerating a bit. "You forget that he's also a troublemaker who constantly hurts himself." Before any of them knew it, BJ suddenly appeared beside Aizawa, clearly unhappy with what was said. "Well, you seem to forget you have a bigger troublemakers in your class. Like, I don't know, someone who is willing to attack a fellow student just because he doesn't know how to deal with his frustrations," BJ said, signaling towards Bakugo, who in turn glared at him. "Or maybe a guy who's only a hero so he can pick up chicks and isn't afraid to hide it." BJ pointed right at Mineta. "Got an explanation for that? Weren't you the guy who threatened to expel them at the drop of a hat if they weren't hero material? Does being a certified sex offender mean you're a good hero?" "What the heck, man?" Mineta shouted, tears rolling down his eyes. "Sorry Mineta. Ain't got nothing against you, but you're clearly not hero material if something as small as the villain's outfit would be enough to have you ignore people who may be in danger." BJ shrugged, not fazed at all by Mineta's sadness. "Anyway, we're taking too long with this so we'll talk later. Watch the show," he said before snapping himself out of existence. Wanting to ignore what had just happened, most of them turned back to the screen to continue watching. Although Aizawa was still going over what BJ said in his mind. It wasn't like BJ was wrong. Perhaps he doesn't as good judgment as he once thought. Inside reveals an elevator. After pressing a button for which floor to go, the man stands and patiently waits to reach the floor. However, his hat strangely falls to the floor. Shrugging it off, he reaches down to pick it up. Once he gets back up however, he notices the reflection of someone on the door. He looks behind himself and sees a young man with unruly green hair. He wore a shiny gray leather jacket along with, strangely enough, goggles. The man doesn't even get a word in as the boy grins at him and pulls out some duct tape. Down a hall full of men carrying handguns and batons, giving off that they were more security guards, we see the door down the hall open. Out comes Izuku, now wearing the Mont's uniform, food tray in hand. Walking out, we see the man from earlier now taped up to the wall, unable to make a sound with all the tape over his mouth. Did Midoriya just tape a guard up and took his place? Tokiyami asked in confusion, though no one had an answer as no one knew what would ever drive someone like Midoriya to tie up someone and take their place. It definitely didn't seem like the act of a hero. Izuku sees the security guards' handguns but diverts his attention away from them. He's got a mission to do. He soon reaches another closed door, looking back to see one of the guards opening it. He walks through and lets out a breath. He's finally found just who he was looking for. Izuku finds himself in a dark room, floor were multiple glass panels all forming a pentagon. Walking over to it, he sees an entire room underneath, with a man who seemed to be napping. The man had a flat and somewhat triangular face with no nose. He also has long black hair which he wears in a messy fashion. Despite not wearing his trademarked mask, almost everyone there knew who that man was. Chizome Akaguro, otherwise known as Stain, the hero killer. Despite being surprised to see the hero killer himself, they were trying to wrap their minds on why Izuku would break into highly secure location just to see him. Iida couldn't help but glare at him, showing that his hate for the man still somewhat resided in him. Izuku found a cutout hole in the ground and slid the food tray through it. This helped the food tray slide its way to Chizome, causing it to bump into his side. He looked down at the tray and found a small piece of paper stuck on it. He raised an eyebrow as he read it. Mind the glass. Looking up, he sees Izuku through the glass, smiling down at him. He got the message. Wait, is Midoriya going to free him? Juro wondered out loud. Uraraka shook her head in denial. What? There's no way Deku would free someone like Stain out of prison. Would he? The ambiguity of the question disturbed them. Chizome stands up as he sees Izuku kneel down and place his hands on the glass. Izuku started vibrating at an intense speed, almost unnoticeable. The starts vibrating with it, more and more before it can't take no more and shatters, the pieces all crashing to the ground. Goodness, that's certainly a surprise. It would appear he vibrated his hands at such a high speed that it broke the glass. Nezu chimed before taking a sip of his tea. Oh my, that's quite an ability. Just imagine all the unique possibilities one could achieve with something like that. Midnight said as she went over multiple ways she'd put Izuku to work if he actually had that. All the girls, sans Eri, blushed at the thought. Mirio, what is she talking about? She innocently asked. Nothing important. Let's just keep watching. There was no way Mirio was ever gonna touch that subject. Izuku smiles to himself for a job well done, until he hears an alarm go throughout the room as well as sees the entrance being shut. Meanwhile, Nezu stands with a group of people, seemingly on some kind of tour. As if sensing what happened, he looks down at a remote control in his hand and flips a switch. Suddenly, in the kitchen of the facility, the fire sprinklers start spraying water all over the place, resulting in the cooks covering themselves, trying to block some of the water. You're helping him, sir? All Might asked in disbelief. It would appear so. Perhaps that's why young Midoriya is freeing Stain. Perhaps we need him for something but are unable to bail him out. That would explain a lot. It at least meant that Izuku wasn't evil or something by breaking out Stain. Though they were still speculative as to what would make them have to resolve to freeing someone like him. Chizome leaps up and grabs a ledge, pulling himself up out of the room. Behind him is Izuku, casually standing by. In 3 seconds those doors are going to open, and 20 guards will be here to shoot us. Chizome says, staring at the entrance as he waits for what appears to be their end. I know. That's what I'm waiting for. Izuku calmly says as he walks over to Chizome and grabs his arm with one hand, and the back of his neck with the other. What are you doing? Chizome asks in confusion. I'm holding your neck so you don't get whiplash. What? Whiplash? Izuku said slowly, believing he was speaking too fast. Before they know it, they hear the guards rushing towards the door. Why aren't they moving? They're going to get killed at this rate. Hatsume said, somewhat interested in the story now that there was some suspense. He's got a plan, right? Eri asked Mirio. He gave her a smile as he petted her head. Definitely. He's Deku, right? Suddenly, the doors open, revealing multiple guards armed with see-through handguns made with glass. Don't move, one of them yelled out. Before any of them knew it, Izuku, along with Chizome, sped right past the guards at blinding speed, knocking them all off their feet. In less than a second, the two were back in the elevator Izuku took earlier. They were taken aback by Izuku's speed. Now him being able to vibrate his hands so fast made sense if he could run this in a second. Whoa, did you guys see that? Shiro said. Nope, he went so fast, I blinked and he was gone. Sato said in amazement. Being released by Izuku, Chizome took a second to compose himself, clearly feeling nauseated from the sudden superspeed travel. Hearing something behind him, Chizome looks back to see Izuku back in the outfit he was in before, supposedly changing in the blink of an eye. He shrugs it off and goes back to trying to settle himself. You're good. It'll pass. It happens with everyone, Izuku says as he waits in the elevator with Chizome. Must have done something pretty serious. What did you do, man? Not hearing an answer, he decides to keep prodding and see if it'll work. What did you do? What did you do? Why'd they have you in there? He asked gleefully, almost as if it was a game. For killing the president. Izuku's eyes widened in surprise and shock from what he just heard, clearly showing he had no idea about Chizome's background. He looks back at the man he tied up earlier while playfully, but silently, mouthing something to him. Oh shit. The only thing I'm guilty of is fighting for people like us. Midoriya is oddly calm with the fact he's breaking out a criminal who is responsible for something as horrible as murder. It may be for the greater good, but he still seems far too comfortable with this. Iida said, not feeling comfortable with seeing someone like Midoriya break the law with such ease. He must be used to causing trouble then. Nezu surmised. You really think so? All Might asked. Well, Chizome did say he was fighting for people like him and Midoriya, and I didn't see those guards earlier use quirks of any kind. So it may be possible that quirk-like abilities are rare in this universe. That would make those with abilities the minority here. And, much like when quirks first appeared in our world, people without abilities most certainly would go against them. Perhaps Midoriya had to resort to criminal activity because of this. That was an uncomfortable thought. Most were aware of how quirkless were treated in their world, but were unsure at what they could do about it. It's hard to imagine that in that world, the roles were reversed. That if they were in that world, they would be discriminated for something they had no control over. Just like the quirkless. Or maybe he just likes causing trouble in this world. Nezu chimed, making everyone fall out of their seats. You take karate. You know karate, man. I don't know karate. But I know crazy. This gets a small laugh from Izuku, not knowing how serious Chizome was. We see Aizawa along with Mirai Sasaki, aka Night Eye. Just in case you guys don't know his name, enter the kitchen from before, the fire sprinkler's still on. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is a code red situation. We are evacuating the entire floor so that we, my associate and I can secure the prison. Sasaki said, causing all the cooks to leave the kitchen. Mirio froze at the sight of his deceased mentor. While he was plenty sad remembering the Mon's tragic death, he was also confused. What was he doing there? Was he trying to stop Izuku from releasing Stain, or to possibly help him? The two suddenly run into two guards who were still suspicious of this whole thing. Who are you? One of them asked. We are Special Operation, CB. FB Sid. Sasaki said, trying to make up things as they go, causing Aizawa to roll his eyes. Woof, he is blowing it so bad right now. Mina commented, gaining a nod from everyone else. Look, perhaps you didn't hear me when first I spoke, but it is imperative that you understand we're in complete lockdown situation. We have to get you to the third floor and... Before he could finish, Aizawa suddenly punches one of the guards in the gut before grabbing a pan and tripping the other with it and clocking him in the head in midair. The guard still standing tries to shoot them, but gets the gun knocked out of his with the pan and then tossed to the ground, knocking him out. I'm sorry, were you finished? Aizawa asked sarcastically. Sasaki shakes his head before rushing over to one of the downed guards and takes his keys. Well, you're certainly more talkative here, Shota. Present Mike said, nudging Aizawa with his elbow, earning him a groan in annoyance. Seriously though Aizawa-sensei, that was totally badass how you took them down. Said Kaminari. Aizawa merely looked away to the side. We cut back to the elevator with Izuku and Chizome, still waiting for the door to open. As they wait, Izuku remembers something that was mentioned about Chizome. They told me you control metal. Chizome looks at Izuku confused, believing that he was attempting to break him out alone. Not paying attention to his confusion, Izuku continues with a rather interesting quip. You know, my mom once knew a guy who could do that. Everyone in the room was silent. If this story was implying what they thought it was, they wouldn't know what to think. Iida and Todoroki were especially disturbed at what that notion could mean. Look, I'm sorry. I'm just not very good with violence. Sasaki told Aizawa as he opened the door for the two. Seeing Chizome, they stare at one another for a few seconds. Sasaki. Chizome said in shock before suddenly getting clocked in the face by Sasaki, knocking him to the ground. Oh, that's gotta hurt. Toru cringed a bit, though no one could tell. Chizome rubs his chin as he looks up at Sasaki in amusement. Good to see you too, old friend. You're walking, he says before standing up. No thanks to you. Sasaki growled. Is he saying he almost crippled Night Eye? And that they were once friends? Tsuyu wondered aloud. Well, it certainly didn't work if that was the case. As to be expected from Sir Night Eye. Mirio said proudly before his shifts downward slightly. As for the whole past friends thing, who knows? Sir Night Eye clearly doesn't like even being around Stain. You are the last person in the world I expected to see today. Sasaki kept a steady glare at Chizome, clearly not happy to be rescuing him. Believe me, I wouldn't be here if I didn't have to. If we get you out of here, we do it my way. No killing, no helmet, Chizome said, motioning to his head. I couldn't disobey you even if I wanted. I'm never getting inside of that head again. Sasaki said, going right up to Chizome's face. I need your word, Akaguro. After staring down at him for a while, Chizome finally nodded, knowing that this was going to be his only means of escape. Hearing this, Uraraka got confused. Get into his head. Does he brainwashing powers now? Oh, like that Shinso guy? Shiro asked. Maybe. Though it may be more advanced than even his. Momo added. Nobody move. The entrance to the bursts open as multiple guards carrying glass handguns fill the room. Pointing their guns at the group of four, they spread it out, hoping to block any means of escape. Sasaki. Chizome calmly said as he looked to Sasaki, expecting him to do something about the guards. Put your hands up or we will shoot. Freeze them, Sasaki. Sasaki tried to keep straight but was clearly nervous due to their situation. I can't. Hands up. Glaring at the guards, Chizome decided to take matters into his own hands. The tables in the room began to shake as he started taking control of anything metal in the room. Utensils, bowls, pots, anything to get them out of there. The room was tense. Nobody was sure what exactly was going to happen. They heard earlier that Stain here control metal, but they didn't think they'd get a chance to see it, what with all the plastic and glass everywhere. But they were also nervous if any of them would come unscathed if the guards opened fire. Seeing this, Sasaki grabs onto Chizome hoping to stop him from possibly killing the guards. No, he shouts as things suddenly slow down. We see all the guards fire their guns right at them, and we see Aizawa grabbing and tugging on the scarf around his neck while his eyes shine a bright red. We hear Jim Croce's "Time in a Bottle" play as Izuku, seemingly unaffected by the slowdown, puts on his earphones, slides on his goggles, and starts running up the side of the wall. Everyone was awestruck at the speed Izuku was displaying. He was running so fast, bullets flying through the air looked slow to them. No hero in their world would be able to match up to this level of speed, not even All Might in his prime. Running on the side of the wall, Izuku sees a pot full of soup flying through the air, so he quickly snags a bit with his finger and tries it, clearly satisfied with the taste. Seeing a guard to his side, he smacks him upside the head before racing off to another and poking him in the face, the force of the poke making waves in the guard's face. While everyone was taken aback by the force a simple poke from Izuku going this fast could dish out, Kaminari couldn't help but voice out his opinion in the most eloquent way possible. "Are you kidding me? He could go so fast, people are basically statues to him. No one should be that fast." Gah. Fortunately, he was stopped by Jiro quickly jabbing him with her earphone jacks. He quickly smacks another guard before grabbing a plate midair and tossing it towards a different guard's head. He knocks aside one guard's gun and then gives him a wedgie. Izuku then speeds over to another and removes the gun from his hand before making the guard's hand for a fist and making him punch himself. Izuku rushes to two guards standing side by side, and moves the arms hold the guns and puts it up to each other's face, so that the knockback from the guns will cause them to hit one another. Before leaving, he grabs one of their hats and put it on. Seeing the bullets about to hit their mark, Izuku goes over to Chizome and Sasaki. He then carefully moves the bullets away from them, smiling at his work as time finally resumes. Aizawa, Chizome, and Sasaki look on in shock as not only did they not get shot, but each of the guards were taken out. Either by something hitting them or even themselves. They look to the back of the room and see Izuku standing by the door, clearly satisfied with himself. That is certainly a horrifying ability. More than you know, Todoroki added. Finding a good portion of the class confused, he sighed as he continued. To do what he did, you not only need to be really fast, but you'd need an insane amount of stamina, skin tough enough to stop bullets, and super strength in order to support each step. He's essentially All Might just with less strength but way more speed, which actually makes him more terrifying. Hearing that made the class shiver at the thought. They should count themselves lucky someone doesn't have abilities like that in their world, and that in his, he seems to be a good guy. Even if he seems fine with crime. Knowing that the strange occurrence was his doing, they decide to just leave while they can before anything else pops up. As he walks past him, Aizawa gives Izuku a pat on the shoulder. "Nice kid," he said before leaving the room. The video then goes to black as Izuku follows them out the room. Wow. Words of praise. That's certainly new. Present mic chimed, somewhat startled to see Aizawa actually praise someone. Aizawa merely narrowed his eye at his friend. He still had thoughts of what BJ had told him in his mind, and knew that he should probably shape up if some guy with too much time on his hands was able to pick this out. "I can hear you thoughts you know," BJ said, seemingly to no one in particular, but Aizawa knew it was him he was referring to. BJ manifested himself in front of the screen with a new tape in hand. But before placing it inside, he had a small announcement to give. "Alright everyone, I'm sure some of you may become overwhelmed with the universes you'll have to see. So I have decided that after 2 or 3 more we will have a short intermission so that you all may have a break. That sound alright?" he asked, receiving a near unanimous agreement among everyone. While yes, all they were doing was just sitting down and watching stuff, they needed a break after seeing the once meek and quiet Midoriya in multiple crazy situations and worlds. Nodding, BJ slipped in the new tape before disappearing. This one weirdly titled, Dekuman, Episode 1 Foot. A title card popped up on the screen, showing Izuku and All Might holding onto each other in panic as something Fang-like approaches. On the fangs were words spelling out the title of the episode. The beginning and end of Dekuman. Dekuman, what kind of name is that? Mineta questioned. Kaminari shrugged. Who knows? I'm more curious about this title card thingy. Yeah, what is this supposed to be? Some kind of TV show? We cut in on both Izuku and All Might tied up and hung over a large mechanical pit, a corrosive pool of liquid bubbling at the bottom to truly show the peril the two were in. Both were in their hero apparel, though Dekuman now donned his mask along with a new red scarf. Smiling off to the side was a purple-haired man whose hair stuck up in a long tube in the air, similar to Marge from The Simpsons. His left hand also appears to be a robotic claw replacement. A narrator suddenly gives off a rather dramatic opening. When last we left Dekuman and All Might Man, they were trapped in Dr. Bomb's cruel clutches. Now as our story continues, can they possibly survive? No one was sure what to think, seeing as they were already thrusted into conflict. Eri however was noticeably worried about Deku and wondered how will he get out of this one. She hoped that he will be alright. Momentarily the moment of your destruction will imminently commence, at the destructive hands of Dr. Bomb. The purple-haired man, now known as Dr. Bomb, said dramatically. Quote. What did he say? Mina asked out loud, voicing the thoughts of almost everyone there. I am not very sure. Yaoyorozu stated. Deku quirked an eyebrow, clearly confused by the evil doctor's statement. Right. Well good luck with all that, whatever you said. All Might, did you get any of that? It seems he's planning on lowering us into this ominous-looking pit here. All Might Man answered. PSH. Cliché. Deku scoffed at the notion. How did we get up here anyway? I don't even remember him capturing us. Do either of them care for their own lives? Juro asked. Suyu shrugged. Hard to say. Although, it is pretty hard to take a villain with the name, Dr. Bomb, seriously. Good point. He sounds like a recurring villain on some kind of Saturday morning cartoon. I'd wager the show's writers wanted to start this episode off mid-adventure. It's a writing technique called, in medias res. In med, wah wah. Deku said, not understanding one bit what the word meant. I think it's Latin for, skip the boring parts. This earned a laugh from most of the room. Despite it starting off semi-seriously, it quickly devolved into a light-hearted comedy. Wait, did he just say episode and writers? Did they know they're in a show or something? Sato questioned. Todoroki shrugged. Probably. Enough. Dr. Bomb suddenly shouted, gaining the attention of our two heroes as he gripped a rather large lever. Now is the most timely time of your doom. With the pulling of the lever, down, the downmost depth. He said before pulling the lever down, a huge grin on his face. Everyone was slightly tense as they watched the man pull the lever. Despite the seemingly comedic tone at the beginning, they didn't know if it was going to take a drastic turn all of a sudden. Like that first one they saw, Deku and All Might Man were befuddled as they have not moved an inch. All that seemed to happen was that the lights flicked for a second. The hated heroes remained vertically unchanged. Dr. Bomb said in surprise, unsure as to what had went wrong. Well, that's embarrassing. Deku chuckled a bit. Uraraka let out a breath she didn't know she was holding, thankful that Deku was okay. She wasn't sure if she could handle another, Deku dies, universe. Hey, boss, you pulled the wrong lever. That was the escalator control. The pit suddenly spoke, now revealing the face on the other side. What? Looking behind himself, Dr. Bomb sees the stairs he used to walk up to the platform were now moving down. He slaps the lever from before back up in frustration. Improbably pointless. Where is the lever to be pulled for downing hated foes? Powerloader couldn't help but think of Hatsume as he hears the pit speak about having an escalator control. The entire mechanical pit just seemed like something she would be crazy enough to want to make. Looking over to her, he already sees her jotting down the mechanical pit in her notebook and ideas for her own. Didn't you read the manual? There's the pit tried to explain before being cut off. Ba 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 ba. An intelligent genius such as Dr. Bomb needs no manuals. We see grab hold of another lever and pull it down, only to find no reaction. He shouts in anger as he beats on the lever panel. For being a supposed intelligent genius, this guy is kind of an idiot. Zero commented. The pit couldn't help but groan in frustration. I'm really sorry about the wait, fellas. I'm sure we'll get this figured out eventually. Well, you better. 'Cause by now I was supposed to be flashing back to my origin story as I face certain doom. Deku pointed out. Ooh, an origin story. So we're going to learn about Midoriya's past and how he became a hero. All Might and Bakugo were both nervous at the thought, All Might from the possibility of One for All being revealed, and Bakugo from his history with Izuku being revealed. Although this was a different universe, they still weren't sure just how different. For all they know, the only difference was that Dr. Bomb was apparently a thing. Oh yeah, is it riveting? Deku scoffed. The rivetiest. And now, the origin of Deku. The narrator said. We see Izuku casually walking on the sidewalk, bag in hand and smile on his face, not having a care in the world. Our hero was once just a common high schooler. Until, suddenly, something crashed right in front of Izuku, knocking the boy to the side and creating a crater. As the dust settles, a buff man stands up, huge grin on his face as he looks down at Izuku. He introduces himself. I am All Might Man. An alien from the planet All Might. Nearly everyone deadpanned at the redundancy of All Might's name, said Hiro, looking off to the side in embarrassment, and slight relief that this was certainly not how the two actually met. Fortunately, Izuku was able to voice their thoughts shortly afterward. Well, that's redundant, Izuku said as he stood back up. I have traveled across countless galaxies, and braved the dangers of the cosmos, to bring you some super secret awesome space stuff. All Might Man said as he pressed his massive finger against Izuku's chest. Sure. Despite being completely and utterly confused by these sudden events, Izuku thought, why not accept some secret items from an alien? That sounded like a reasonable choice. All Might Man kneels down as three bright objects fly out of his hands and into Izuku's. The alien All Might Man entrusts this mere human with three powerful items: a metal rod, a tuning fork, and a 100-yen coin. The narrator explained as Izuku looked down at said objects. Really? That's the super secret awesome space stuff he was talking about. Bakugo wondered. What a load of bleep. He froze as he ran through multiple swears in his head, only to hear the same loud bleeping each time. God bleep, you're bleeping my thoughts too. He shouted at seemingly no one, only receiving a cheeky chuckle in return. What is this? Junk you keep in your glove box? Izuku asked in annoyance. Junk I keep in my space glove box. All Might Man emphasized, not noticing Izuku's irritated tone. Kirishima shook his head in disappointment. Like that's any better. Izuku rolled his eyes. Oh yay. Well thanks. I gotta be. But suddenly, an amazing event occurred. We see the three objects fly out of Izuku's hand and surrounds him, causing him to float into the air. In a bright flash, Izuku is suddenly in his hero costume, along with a red flowing scarf. He slowly floats back down to the ground and poses dramatically to no one in particular. A new hero is born. Somehow. Deku, super unequaled hero of excellence. Everyone was speechless at the sight, unsure as to what happened and how. The only one who wasn't was actually Eri, who was more amazed if anything. Watching Deku transform into a hero was a spectacle for her, and she was excited to see more. Yup, that's how it all happened. Deku said as the story concluded. An epic tale indeed. All Might Man quipped. The mechanical pit, however, was less than impressed. You got superpowers from holding random items. That doesn't make sense. You don't make sense. Deku shouted back. You just a one-off incidental character. I bet you don't even have an origin story. Okay, there's no doubt about it. Sato commented. These guys know that this is some kind of TV show. Juro nodded. Yeah, I'd say it's more than probable at this point. Oh, but I do. I was once just an ordinary pit, until one day, when I was suddenly bitten by a radioactive. Lies. Such exaggerations. Dr. Bomb shouted as he held up a magazine with robots on the cover. You were ordered from the Inconceivable Robots summer catalog. You know this truth to be true. Hatsume could be seen drooling at the sight of the magazine, wishing to own a copy for herself. If only it existed in their own universe. Perhaps if she asked BJ later he'll get her a copy. Oh come on boss. I'm trying to impress these guys. Enough chatter chittering whelps. Dr. Bomb pressed a red button that happened to be on the panel. Red means death, right? It had to be the right one. Before they knew it, Deku and All Might Man began to shake intensively, neither understanding what was happening. They started rocking back and forth as the shaking continued to intensify. Both were nervous to what the outcome will be. Suddenly, there was a flash, and Dr. Bomb was now hung up over the mechanical pit instead of Deku and All Might. Wah, he said in shock. Okay, how in the world did that happen? Kaminari asked out loud, voicing his small frustration. No one really had an answer, as they were all just as surprised as Kaminari was. We see Deku and All Might now at the control panel, completely fine. Whoa, how did that happen? Deku wondered out loud. Perhaps there's a, rarely used, switch places with your nemesis button. All Might Man commented. You're right. Here it is. Deku said in excitement, close to pushing the button himself. Until All Might blocked him from it, knowing that doing so will only bring them back T.1. Don't push that. Fine. Deku said in disappointment. Who on earth would even make anything like Th? Yaoyorozu started before hearing the mumblings of One-Mei Hatsume. She was once again writing down in her notebook. Absolutely genius. So if I reroute the wiring, fix up the my own self-running generator, then I may just be able to. They all heard, as she was off in her own world. You will release me right this instance of seconds. Dr. Bomb demanded. Deku looked up at Dr. Bomb. Hey, by the way Doc. Did you ever try this button with the big arrow pointing down? He asked, pointing at said button. Quote. How did he miss that? Eri asked, voicing out everyone's thoughts as they see the button. Oh, that button pressing is for the playing of MP3s. Dr. Bomb casually stated. Yes, to get down, as the children of youth sing. Jiro deadpanned at the words, feeling them hit her in particular, seeing as she was the most musically inclined in the room. Oh, okay. Well I guess we're off then. Deku said with a shrug as he and All Might finally make their way out, leaving the doctor tied up. Suddenly, Deku hand stretches up to the panel and pushes the button with the downward arrow. Let's press it anyway. Dr. Bomb lets out a shout as he is suddenly lowered down into the pit, cutting to black. While some were a little caught off guard with how Izuku had supposedly caused Amon's possible death, most couldn't help but laugh at the situation. Besides, from the episode tone, it was most likely that that guy was fine. Out of everyone in the room, none were more entertained than Eri. She wondered if there were more episodes to be seen, or even merch she could wear. A TV show about her hero Deku and his rise as a hero sounded like the best thing ever. Imagine if a show like that actually existed. Everyone was a little excited for what they'll see next. Sure, the ones they have seen were a little out there and bizarre in a few places, but they were at least interesting. And while they have different personalities, it eased their hearts to see that their Midoriya, despite the different upbringings, was still generally a good guy with heroic intentions. Well, time to mess with some heads. BJ popped in with another tape in hand, though he didn't show what was said on it. Hey guys, just popping in real quick before we start this next viewing for a small removal. Removal? Aizawa said in confusion. Yeah, for this next one, I wish to remove Eri from the room. What? Why? Eri pouted, not wanting to leave and miss a chance to see more stories of Deku. I'm sorry, but I don't think this next one is appropriate for you to see. BJ explained, resulting in Eri looking to the side in sadness. Aizawa raised up a hand to politely comment on the situation. Excuse me, but I'm not sure if leaving Eri on her own with you is a good idea. No offense, but I don't know if I trust her in your care. Mirio nodded in agreement. Aizawa-sensei has a point. Perhaps I should go with her. I do not mind missing out on a few universes. Don't worry about that, I've already considered that. That's why I brought him. He replied, pointing off to the side. Everyone looks to where he was pointing. Their eyes widen in surprise at who they see. Deku. Both Eri and Ochako said in shock at once. To the side, we see Midoriya casually walking in. Though he was strangely wearing an apron for some reason. Wait, I thought you said young Midoriya was at home sleeping. All Might pointed out. BJ nodded. And he still is. Your Midoriya at least. This Midoriya however is not like yours. Midoriya politely bowed before them. It's a pleasure to meet you all. While I have met your counterparts from my universe, I guess this is technically our first meeting. You see, this Midoriya comes from a universe much like your own. However, this Midoriya had become Eri's legal guardian. In other words, he's the Eri from his universe's adoptive father. Everyone's jaw dropped at the news. This Midoriya is a father. That was probably the most bizarre thing they had heard up to now. Eri however, had different thoughts as opposed to the others. Lucky her, she thought. Having someone like Deku as a father would have been miles better than being taken care of by Overhaul. Even now, while her situation has definitely improved, she still would love to be taken care of by someone as kind as Deku. Now, with this Midoriya here, he can take care of Eri while we watch this universe. BJ explained. Eri gasped at the idea. Oh right. I actually brought a treat for her. Midoriya said as he pulls out something that had Eri drooling. A shiny candied apple. Aizawa rubbed his chin as he thought this over. Well it is Midoriya. I guess if Eri's fine with it we can. Yes yes yes. She shouted in excitement before rushing out of her seat to Midoriya. She leaps into his arms as he chuckles at her behavior. BJ smiled at the display before pointing off to the side. Head that way and you two will find a room to relax in. It's got snacks, a couch, a TV, just about everything you two will need. Midoriya nodded as he and Eri left the room. Nearly everyone there smiled at how adorable the two were together, making them realize how Izuku would make for a great father in the future. Okay, now that that's taken care of, time to get this next viewing started. Iida raised up a hand. Mr. BJ, none of us asked at the time, but what makes this universe inappropriate? First of all, don't call me that ever again. Second, let's just say the Midoriya in this one is a little less heroic than what you've seen. Wait, what do you mean by th? Mina started before being interrupted. Too late, putting it in. BJ said quickly before shoving the tape in and disappearing. A few were able to catch what the tape said, however they did not know what it alluded to, as it said. The night. We fade in on a view of a castle. It was nighttime, so little to no detail could be seen, other than its dark silhouette against the night sky. In the middle was a tall tower, standing over all the rest. What seemed like a window in it was casting light, showing that someone indeed did live there. A drum beat began to play as we zoomed in closer and closer to the tower. Inside the tower, we see a pair of hands slowly sliding on gloves in time with the music as the guitar plays, amping the music. Afterward, they then grabbed what looked to be a cape from a stand. What's with the music? Yaoyorozu wondered out loud. Well, the others had some music in it, right? Kaminari said. Yeah, however, it seems more prominent in this one. At what appears to be the front door of the castle, someone carefully walks in, revealing herself as a young woman with short-length brown hair, holding a book in her arms. She smiles to herself as she believes the castle to be abandoned. Everyone was surprised to see said woman, seeing as she resembled someone among them. Is that you, Jiro? Yaoyorozu asked. Jiro was absolutely befuddled at the sight of her in this universe. What am I doing there? She wondered out loud. I'm more curious about your brown hair. Mina commented. Toru nodded. Yeah, what's up with that? Jiro shrugged. I don't know. It kind of reminds me of my dad's. Although his is more of a blonde. We see the back of the mysterious person from before standing in front of a mirror. From his figure, you can see that he is male, has short and messy green hair, as well as near pale white skin. The man could be seen fixing up his outfit before grabbing his top hat and rushing off. Jiro sets her backpack down as she finds a spot to sit to read, revealing it to be Twilight. Opening the book, we flash to Mont's glowing red eyes and wicked grin, showing off his fangs before pulling back to see his full figure. However, the upper half of his body is noticeably darkened, covering up his face. Pale skin, glowing red eyes, sharp teeth. Twilight. Is Midoriya a freaking vampire? Kirishima asked. No one was really sure. If he was, however, that would explain how BJ said he was a little less heroic. As most of them thought this over, Yaoyorozu couldn't help but think about a vampire Midoriya. She has read her fair share of Twilight in her off, and couldn't but blush as she imagined the story of said book around herself and vampire Midoriya. I have never read or seen Twilight, nor have any intention to do so, so I have nothing to go off of if it is actually as romantic as some say it is. Just wanted to point that out. Cast in a pitch black suit and cape with the inside being red, the man grabs a strange-looking cane. The top looked bat-like, with wide wings and sharp ears. Similar to the man, it also wielded glowing red eyes. Walking down a flight of stairs, the man holds out his cane. The top opens, revealing fire blazing from the inside. He then swings it in front of him, mystically causing the all candles hung up down the hall to light up one by one, eventually reaching over by where Jiro was reading. You know, it is pretty dumb to go to an abandoned castle just to read some book. Even if there wasn't a monster there, you don't know what you can run into. Suyu pointed out. Noticing the candles weirdly lighting up, Jiro cautiously stands, looking around to see who could be responsible for this. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew right by her, causing her see at the end of the wall, atop a balcony, stood a strange figure. We zoom in to see him covering himself with his cape. Moving it aside, we see Izuku Midoriya, or as he's otherwise known as in this universe, as the Duke. Suddenly, out of seemingly nowhere, he starts to go into song. The day is the wife whom I elude. He began as he removed his hat and bowed, knowing it to be courteous when greeting someone. The one to whom I should be right. Although forewarned by peers and kin, I always get into the night. This caught nearly everyone by surprise. While part of it was the shock of seeing Midoriya start singing, but it was also the shock of how nice his voice was. This Midoriya's voice sounded deeper and more mature than their Midoriya. While their Midoriya's voice would constantly crack from anxiety, this one just exuded confidence. Making his way up to the rails, Izuku jumps down to the lower floor, flapping his cape back as he lands. He smirks at Jiro as he slowly walked over to her. Despite being around the same height, Jiro couldn't help but feel small as this otherworldly figure's strangely large shadow cast over her. The night, she calls me, she calls me, she calls me. Izuku sang, his shoulders shimmying to the music before suddenly disappearing. Jiro looked befuddled, wondering what just happened. Behind her, a dark silhouette of Izuku formed. She sways in her velvet dress, and pulls me towards her in the dark. Hearing him still singing, Jiro jumped in surprise and looked behind her to see where he was. However, Izuku kept moving just out of her sight, until she went full circle and found nothing. Placing a finger on her chin, wondering just where he went, Jiro was suddenly startled once more as he popped up right to her side. She tried running away down the hall, wanting to get away from him. While the others rest, Izuku instantly sped right past her without her seeing. She looked behind herself to see if he was chasing her, only to somehow almost run into him before stopping himself. Izuku then, using his cane, knocked Jiro's book up out of her hand and onto the ground, only for the pages to begin flying out of the book. Jiro looked back frighteningly at Izuku, a large smirk still adorned on his face, showing he was having fun toying with her. The fiend, Yaoyorozu quietly growled upon seeing Twilight being knocked to the ground. She tried running for the door, only for Izuku to snap his fingers and cause the door shut and lock. Jiro looked horrified, finding that she couldn't escape from this psychopath. Heed the call, the time has come. Mother's come, she is the night. Izuku continued as he held out his cane to Jiro, a long red cloth shooting out and grabbing her by the arm. He pulls her closer as he sings, "Come with me to the other side." Removing the cloth from her arm, Jiro tries running away again, only for more to come after her and wrap around her entire body. "Make the girl in black your bride." Lifting her up into the air, the cloth engulfs Jiro before bursting her out, looking noticeably different. She now donned a dark velvet dress along with pitch black, high-heeled boots, and her once brown hair was now a dark purple. "Really? What's with the dress?" Jiro groaned into her hands, clearly unhappy with the sight before her. Uraraka gently pats her on the back, trying to comfort her. Well, at least it looks pretty. And hey, your hair looks normal." Despite it not really helping, Jiro did appreciate the thought. Falling to the ground, Jiro looks over her new clothes in confusion. Because of this, she fails to see more cloth come up behind her and wrap tightly around her waist. "The night, she calls me. She calls me, she calls me." Izuku starts pulling her towards him. Jiro tries to escape, but finds herself unable to remove the cloth. Coming face to face with Izuku, we suddenly flash to Jiro limply swaying in the air. She sways in her velvet dress and pulls me towards her in the dark. She looks up to see strings attached to her wrist, manipulating her arms. Above her is Izuku on his balcony, puppeteering her with his cane as he amicably watches her squirm. While the others rest, biting off the string, Jiro manages to remove herself from Izuku's grasp, falling back down to the floor. Surprised, Izuku jumps down and tries to grab her, only for her to run away down one of the halls. Izuku groans in annoyance before chasing after her. "Yeah, you book it, girl," Mina cheered, causing Jiro to smile a bit. "Though it's not like she can outrun him. You saw how fast he was," Shiro pointed out. Jiro runs up a flight of stairs, only to see Izuku already at the top. He playfully waves at her before pulling down a lever. The stairs suddenly invert into a slide, causing Jiro to slide back down, Izuku following after. She races down another hallway, Izuku still on her tail. Jiro hides behind a corner and sees Izuku rush right past her, seemingly unaware she was there. Jiro then began to make her way back to the entrance hall. Right when she finally made it to the door, Izuku grasps her wrist before she can even touch the handle. He playfully wags his finger back and forth, telling her he won't allow her to leave. Suddenly, the two become dark silhouettes over a red background as they start dancing. Well, More like Izuku was dancing and Jiro was just unable to resist. I'm still confused. What does he want with Jiro? Toru said, a befuddled expression on her invisible face. Maybe to suck her blood. He is a vampire, right? Suyu placed a finger on her chin in contemplation. But if that is what he's after, why is he toying with her? Besides, this Midoriya only sucks guys. BJ said out of nowhere. Everyone looks to BJ bewildered, wondering if they had heard him correctly. She tried running, only to be pulled back by his cane. He grasps her hand and starts twirling her, making her nauseous. It just seems very strange to me. Not her quiet lonely streets. And draped in all her mystery. Could be so sweet and comforting. Izuku sings as they swing to and fro. Jiro was starting to lose hope in ever leaving this madman grasp. That is until, during their dance, he dipped her so low she saw the drapes behind her. Her eyes widened as she sees a little light shining through them. The night, she calls me. She calls me, she calls me. Looking back up at Izuku, she sees his blood-red eyes and razor-sharp fangs. An idea sparks in head as she knew exactly how to take down this vampiric menace. Everyone went silent at what this was implying. While they knew she essentially had no choice but to do so, it was still an unsettling thought. Especially for Jiro, as it was essentially her doing the act. She sways in her velvet dress. And pulls me towards her in the dark. Izuku sings as he watches Jiro, the girl who has been doing everything she can to get away from him for the past few hours, now suddenly starts going along with him before seductively grasping his chin and backing to the end of the hallway. He watches in confusion as she becks him forward with her finger, a seductive smile on her face. Izuku looks towards the audience in surprise before suddenly grinning as he walks toward her. Jiro started getting flustered at her alternate version's action. It was obvious that she was doing it to trick him, but it was still a little embarrassing to watch herself seemingly seduce Midoriya of all people. While the others rest, Izuku removes his cape and tosses his top hat aside as he gets closer and closer. Reaching Jiro, Izuku turns towards the audience and wags his eyebrow at them. Does he know we're watching this? Midnight wondered. That would explain why he's singing of all things. Aizawa added. He grabs Jiro's arms and rushes to the end of the hall. He finds a small pillar with a stone gargoyle atop it before smacking the gargoyle away and sitting Jiro atop it. Izuku leans in towards her as he removes his gloves, not noticing Jiro reaching her arms up to a small rope she assumed would pull back the curtains. While she was close, she couldn't quite reach them. He then starts untying her corset, revealing more of her cleavage, while also lifting up her skirt. Everyone was getting noticeably uncomfortable while watching this. Even Mineta, in all his perverseness, did not like watching this take place. While he may love looking up skirts and casually groping girls, even he had his limits. Jiro couldn't help but get flustered at the image of Izuku forcing himself on her, even if she was pretending to be interested for her plan. It was just something she never thought she'd see, or even think about. Jiro begins to freak out as she frantically tries to grab the rope until finally. She did it. Pulling the rope down, each of the curtains start opening, filling the room with sunlight. Surprised by this, Izuku doesn't see Jiro reach for his cane and use it to knock him back, right into the light. Izuku screams in pain as his body starts to decompose, until finally, he crumples onto the floor, turning into ash. They all went silent at the sight of Midoriya dying. While yes, this one kind of deserved it, and they saw Midoriya die a lot in the first viewing, they still weren't too comfortable watching it happen again. In the first one, it was played off for laughs, considering he didn't stay dead for long. But here, they could tell it wouldn't be like the first. This death was permanent. Jiro was most affected by this, since she was watching herself do this. Jiro looks down at Izuku's corpse with an unsympathetic look on her face. She looks up at the audience as her skin suddenly turns pale white, her eyes a blood red, and her ears become pointed. Just like Izuku's. She grins at the audience as she caresses the cane, fading to black as the song ends. They were all left appalled by the end. None had understood what it meant. Is Jiro a vampire now? Was she one the whole time? Was it because of the cane? No one voiced these thoughts however, except for Mina of course. How? I have so many questions. Too bad, on to the next one. BJ said as he snapped his fingers, disappearing from sight. Wait. That's all for now. If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments.